Hey everyone, I don't do this very often, but an article was written by a guy called Ian Davis, and it was great, and I want to share it with you. He's on Twitter. He's called In This Together. I don't know of him. I know he's written for the 21st Century Wire and I think UK Column. So he knows his stuff, and especially you can see here, EU Defence Union, etc. That's what he writes on. But I want to read it to you, if you don't mind, and I'll cut it down in the video to the important bits. But it's important, this is. And the article is titled. We have a clear my throat. So the article is called "Remain has won, Brexiteers lost, and no one has noticed." This is about obviously the election that's just gone, which the Tories have kicked Labour's ass and got a 80-seat majority. This morning, the UK awoke to the news that Boris Johnson's Tory party had electorally destroyed Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. The talking media heads were spouting all their usual drivel about why Bojo won or Jezza lost. These explanations range from a rejection of Corbyn's alleged racist Marxism to the nation embracing Johnson's claimed Brexit opportunities, all of it sounding well-informed and reasonable, and all of it complete tosh. I agree, totally. As a disinterested observer, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you always get the government, here. I suggest the reason that the election turned out the way it did are clear. You don't need a panel of experts to figure it out. In 2017, though they lost the election, there was a sizable swing towards Labour. 2 years later, that swing completely reversed to the Tories. The difference between the two was that 2017 Labour promised to honour the Brexit referendum result, but by yesterday's election, the policy had essentially changed to Remain. That's exactly what I've just been talking about. He's nailed it. That's why we lost Brexit. But, Labour lost the election. But, as you're about to see, more complicated that. Remember, the title of this was Brexiteers Lost. You're about to find out why. Despite Labour Leave repeatedly warning the party hierarchy that a Remain policy was electoral suicide, especially in the Labour heartlands, the EU loyalty of the Blairite faction held sway, so Labour suffered a crushing defeat. The fact is, despite absurd claims from the die-hard People's Vote Remainers like Caroline Lucas, the Brexit mandate is pretty solid. Most people outside the Londonista cosmopolitan bubble want the UK to leave the EU. Yeah. For most of the reasons that I give you, that I echo Mark Blythe's statements on it. We see the EU, or certainly I do, and people in the Midlands like me, see the EU as a neoliberal enterprise that is there to push Western European wages down to Eastern European levels so Europe can compete with the Chinese on a global basis. Mark Blythe says it much better than I do. But essentially that's the way we feel about it. And there's obviously a lot of bigotry and racism and whatever that feeds into that as well, but that's education, and the way people are brought up. Nobody's born racist. Knowing that Labour wouldn't deliver, while no fans of the Tories, they had to elect the Bullingdon Club glitterati in the vain hope of leaving the EU. This has caused a huge gnashing of teeth from Labour supporters who point out that the NHS will be privatised, vital services underfunded, income inequality will continue to rise, social mobility decline, child poverty will grow to regression, taxation will punish the most vulnerable, all of which is true, I think. All of which they'll do. They're absolutely right, he goes on to say. The nation have just been forced into giving the Tories 5 more years to do what they always do. They will enrich themselves and their cronies at everyone else's expense. And I would add there, and also, they'll have an 80-seat majority. Do you think there's 80 Tories with, moral standing who will stand up if they think something is wrong, even if it means losing their seat? Over 80? I digress. The other apparent reason that people rejected Corbyn is that the mainstream media, intelligence agencies and his own parliamentary party have waged an incessant war of attrition against him from the moment he was elected. They have thrown everything at him in the hope that something would stick. Enough did, and regardless of the absurdity of the allegations, many were bamboozled into believing it, yeah. From the BBC photoshopping pictures of Corbyn wearing a Russian hat outside the Kremlin, who can forget that, to evidence-free fake investigations into totally baseless anti-Semitism allegations. The mainstream media, only ably assisted by snarling PLP detractors and intelligence service experts like Richard Dearlove, have done everything they possibly could to annihilate Labour's electoral chances. Yesterday they accomplished their mission. I have watched it. It has been systematic, the way they have done this. I don't think any of it was left to chance. I really don't. The more I look into it, the more I think. I mean, I've watched it unfold as closely as anybody. How they beat Corbyn. They beat him down. It's going to happen to Bernie in America. I'm going to tell you all about it later. The loss is already being blamed on Corbyn by the Blairites. This is the culmination of their 4.5-year-long campaign to remove democratic socialism from the Labour Party. I would say it's longer than 4.5 years. They've been trying to do it since 1979. Neoliberal corporatists like Blair, Campbell and Mandelson, using their power and wealthy connections, were instrumental in pushing Labour towards a losing Remain position, not losing. They were determined the Labour Party would return to a party of the establishment, and with Corbyn inevitably on his way out, they're hell-bent on achieving it. However, Corbyn has considerable democratic socialist support within Labour. Here's the point I want to get onto. There's still a lot of Labour supporting people in the Labour Party, and it's massive, remember, 500,000 at the last count, although it's probably less now. While he may not continue, it appears, in selecting the next leader, the Labour Party face an existential threat. The membership want a democratic socialist. The Blairite power brokers want a corporate neoliberal. This election appears to give the Blairites the advantage, but unless the party changes its own leadership election rules, the fight looks destined to rumble on for years, rendering Labour itself a spent force unless they cut the Blairites adrift. And of course, you know, this is not going to happen overnight. Reform of the Labour Party is not going to happen overnight. It's just not. You know, you've been trying for years to try and get this reselection thing on the books. And how many Blairites were deselected or reselected or whatever you call it? How many? How many did I say we're going to? The processes are there to protect your MPs. Corbyn, a natural Brexiteer whose political career has been characterised by his opposition to the EU, strong anti-racist and anti-war campaigning, was trapped in an establishment pincer movement. Bashed by the media, his own parliamentary party colleagues and the opposing benches, as defector after defector made loud, vacuous propaganda statements to the unquestionably obedient parent media, he was forced to capitulate just to hold on to the party together. Can you imagine what had happened if Bernie Sanders won the nomination and actually became president in America? So, in hindsight, as implored by many, he would have probably fared better if he had stood at his ground, refuted the moronic anti-Semitism claims, and argued for a strong Lexit. You can see why I gravitated towards this article by Ian Davis, can't you? For whatever reason, he didn't, and heavy defeat was assured. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. As a result, the thing is, it's not even hindsight. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. My studio is my front room of my council flat. I have had 2 failed businesses. 2. And even I was calling it out, screaming into a camera in January, you're losing your support. As a result, Brexiteers, even Lexiteers to a lesser degree, are dancing in the aisles imagining that they have just won a great victory. For some, voting Tory was a bitter pill to swallow. People like Blythe Valley, you know, these mining towns in the northeast. But with all the unfolded anti-Semitism and terrorist supporter smears constantly buzzing around Corbyn, maybe some could sweeten that pill a little. Unfortunately for them, despite Johnson's electioneering promises, the UK is not going to leave the EU. You can see why I really gravitated to this. This guy is talking my language. Boris's withdrawal agreement is practically identical to May's, which in turn was indivisible from Cameron's early 2016 bargain with Tusk. Thus far, there has been no negotiation between the United Kingdom and the European Union. Johnson's working agreement deal, that he keeps calling it, it's a working agreement, is nothing more than a reaffirmation of the UK's right to negotiate a trade deal, a right it already had. There is no Brexit deal. Negotiations haven't even started. No deal. They called it a deal over and over. They let him say, we've got a deal, it's up and ready, it's ready to go, let's get Brexit done. They let him do it over and over and over. It's not a deal. Every word of EU legislation, every regulation and every directive has been transferred onto the United Kingdom's statute books. On February the 1st, 2020, Johnson will announce that he has taken the UK out of the EU. Millions will cheer, millions will weep, and absolutely nothing will have changed. Then the real Brexit negotiations will begin with the EU already stating that access to the UK territorial fishing waters, a supposed cornerstone of Brexit, are a prerequisite for any discussion. The political declaration of Johnson's working agreement ensures total reciprocity, I never said that word, total reciprocity between UK and EU regulation until the deal is done. Negotiations are supposed to be concluded by December 31st, 2020, but there are no guarantees. I've just heard that he's ruled out an extension from that. I've heard that in the media today, I think. Johnson has. Just as the deadlines for the working agreement were extended time and time again, it seems likely that the same will apply to the discussions on the UK/EU future relationship. There is currently no commitment at all from the UK to withdraw from the EU Defence Union, placing all UK defence capability under the centralised single point command and control of the EU. With the UK representing 40% of the entire European military industrial intelligence complex, the EU Defence Union cannot proceed in any meaningful way without the UK. You might imagine that this would give the UK a big bargaining chip in discussions on the future relationship. However, there is no evidence of any will among the UK political establishment to even discuss the issue, let alone withdraw from the EU Defence Union. The deeper and wider trade partnership with the EU, promised by Theresa May, along with the UK's unconditional commitment to European defence, indicates where the negotiations will end up. Almost total regulatory alignment and EU command and control of the UK national defence and security. I know this has been a worry for a lot of you. I know a lot of you have been talking about this in the comments of my videos. This EU Defence Union. It really does look like it's a thing that really it's going to happen. They don't want to give you Brexit. There's so many reasons. Breakup of the United Kingdom, EU Defence Union, there's so many. Financial crash. Closing their loopholes, their financial loopholes. You see where I'm going. There's so many reasons they don't want to give you it. You won't get it. You'll get something like it. You'll get, I can't believe it's not Brexit. You'll get, it might be Brexit, I'm not quite sure. You'll get that. The entire UK political establishment on both sides of the House, the intelligence community and the mainstream media closed ranks to make Labour's electoral defeat a certainty. What our democratic system has once again delivered is the worst possible outcome. Based upon the illusion of Brexit, the working class have now turned their back on the only party that represents their interests, placing their value in the hands of highly privileged vulture capitalists who care nothing for their welfare, at the same time riddled with internecine conflict. The party that should fight for them have spent years navel-gazing, while the same neoliberal political establishment wrestled them into submission. Remainers have lost nothing, and Brexiteers have nothing. The diametric opposite to the widely held perception. The working people of the UK are the losers, as they always are, is what I was saying to you in my last segment. This will forever be the case until we understand that the political parties, charismatic leaders and occasional plebiscites are nothing but window dressing for an establishment hierarchy that rules us absolutely. Voting will never change this unless we insist that the true written constitution of the UK is honoured. Then and only then will we have a society capable of justice and equality and opportunity, the one that the 99.99% of us want while pointlessly imagining we can achieve it through the ballot box. I agree. We're not going to vote our way out of this rigged system. It's a rigged system. You can't vote your way out of the rigged system. I don't know much about the EU Defence Union. I know Ian does a lot for 21st Century Wire, and I know Patrick Henningsen, and I trust him. So there's obviously something to it. I haven't investigated it much, but the rest of it, he's spot on with. Absolutely spot on with, is Ian Davis there. Boris Johnson now has an 80-seat majority. Now he has a big enough majority to get through a weak source Brexit. So what you can expect in the coming months, what I'm expecting, is the weakest possible Brexit you can imagine, all dressed up in the hardest Brexit possible terms, with lots of bluster and lots of showbiz and lots of what you've seen for the last 3.5 years for another few weeks at least. And then everybody will be going, ha, well, at least it's done now. We can all go to sleep again. Now he's got a big enough majority, he's going to ram through a deal like Theresa May's dead parrot that she couldn't get through Parliament. Now he will. Hear me now, front me later. It was Brexiteers got lost. I agree with Ian Davis.